Now local Sinclair media is up my too. If someone is to me, I don't think the Democratic Party would, there'd probably be plenty of Democrats who'd be throwing a party.
Today is a day that ends in Y, so Hasan Piker is playing the victim. Hey guys, welcome back to the show, your home for independent and nonpartisan commentary and analysis on politics, media, internet culture, and more. This one has a bit of all of the above because we are once again checking in on Hasan Piker, the far-left streamer who, and kind of internet celebrity, I think it's fair to say, who's been having a bit of a moment with campaigning with some of these very high-profile far-left candidates aligned with the so-called Democratic Socialists of America, having several of them win big elections. So sorry about Francesca Hong, by the way. RIP to a real one. But jokes aside, Hasan is obviously having a moment, but it's also leading to him getting more scrutiny than ever. And he is responding to that scrutiny by accusing people of trying to have him killed if they call him radical or point out how extreme and toxic he is and how, actually, ironically enough, unhinged and violent his rhetoric has been over the years. Anyway, we're going to watch a clip from his stream where he kind of crashes out about this, and we're going to go through it all. There's a really bizarre twist in there as well, so let's watch.
This aired on local Sinclair media in the country? What the f***? Now local Sinclair media is up my ass too? Holy moly.
I mean, does it mean that they're up your ass? I love that colorful language and description. If they're just airing packages that are critical of you or that are negative about you? I mean, you're the one that you kind of got the attention you ordered, right? You made yourself a national figure. You said insane and incendiary things about politics, and then had a lot of success as well by getting these candidates elected. It's like, obviously, the flip side of doing that is that it's going to bring a lot of heat, and that heat still shouldn't cross a certain line. And I'm even willing to acknowledge, as you'll see as we go along, that some of it may have done so. But generally, like, reporting on your extremism when you are an extremist figure who's on the rise in American politics and having a big impact is 1,000% fair game. So why is he whining about it so much? I don't know. We'll keep going.
Oof. Rupert Murdoch is obviously put the crosshairs on me, and now we got Sinclair on top of it too. Jesus Christ.
Against his inflammatory rhetoric.
I do legitimately think these guys are trying to get me killed. I will say it. I mean, it doesn't feel great to be in this situation, but it is it's obvious that the narrative is set in where the goal here is to just basically say, like, this is the most nefarious, most toxic force in American politics. Someone has to do something.
Piker is now objecting to what he...
Well, all right, let's hang on and unpack that, because he said a couple key things there. One is that, like, Rupert Murdoch has put him in the crosshairs, and this is really not how it works, right? Rupert Murdoch is, of course, one of the owners of Fox News and that whole empire. The Murdochs are. That's not really how it works. It's not as if some sort of email or memo goes out and they say, it's time to start focusing on Hasan Piker. Make sure to cover him as much as possible because he is bad and we don't like him. And he's a very good boogeyman or scapegoat. And if something happens to him, then that's what we want. No. That's fake. Like, they didn't say that. They don't do that. The way that it plays out is just that when they cover him, it gets eyeballs, and then they respond to that by covering him more and more, and he keeps doing crazier and crazier stuff, and he's such what they're trying to do on Fox News is like right-wing media, right? So they're trying to constantly make the Democrats look bad and Republicans generally look good. And he has made himself an extremely useful and frankly perfect example to use over and over again. And then he's surprised that they're using him over and over again? I don't get it. It's like, that's not how this works. If you go and create the situation for yourself, you can't really complain that then they're doing it. And I'm sorry, but there's nothing about doing a news segment on someone and pointing out their inflammatory rhetoric, their violent radicalism, like the crazy stuff they've said and done. And unless you actually take that additional step and advocate for some sort of vigilante violence, you're not just like implicitly saying like, oh, someone should hurt him. Just by covering him and pointing out how extreme and toxic he is doesn't do that. That's fair game. That's fair critique. The same way that when MS Now or CNN did segments about like how scary or dangerous Tucker Carlson was, how radical he was, or they did the same about like a Ben Shapiro back in the day, that's not them therefore saying someone should kill him. It's like, unless they actually go that additional level, which the hilarious irony here is the ones that the people who are saying someone should do it is mostly progressive people online talking about killing Trump, right? So he's mostly hallucinating this. To at least to the extent that I've seen, I've overwhelmingly seen people criticizing him, sometimes even in ways that are not fair. Like I've seen some conservative commentators like Scott Jennings take a clip out of context of Hasan to suggest that he wants to like lynch black people or something. And the clip is totally out of context. And in its actual context, he is mocking someone who's talking about going back to the before times or something. He's like very clearly not advocating for lynching black people. And as much as I think Hasan does believe in violent revolution, he doesn't believe in doing that. That doesn't even make sense with his ideology. So it's like some of the attacks and critiques on him aren't always fair. I think a lot of them are, but some of them might not be. But that doesn't mean anybody's calling for his murder just by pointing out these critiques or doing these packages. He's trying to essentially declare criticism of him that often just includes playing him speaking and letting his words stand for themselves. He's trying to reframe that as like violence or inciting violence against him. It is not. Anyway, we'll keep going.
What he deems as a threat against him. That's despite repeatedly making horrific threats against all sorts of Americans in this country. Conservative activist Laura Loomer posted this weekend, quote, "One of these days, Hasan Piker is going to talk bleep to the wrong person, and then I'm going to make that person..."
Dude, they're getting unbelievably shameless. I mean, this is no longer just like a slander smear operation. They're just actively highlighting people putting a hit out on me.
Well, hang on. There's a lot to say about this. One is, of course, it's fair for Fox to cover this because Laura Loomer making that statement, she's a very high-profile right-wing figure, and she made that statement, which then Hasan responded to, and it's an incendiary statement. So it's completely fair for them to report on this statement being made. Now, the underlying statement by Laura Loomer saying that one of these days Hasan's going to talk crap to the wrong person, and then she says, and I'm going to start a GoFundMe for that person or something to that effect. Two things can be true at the same time. That is not literally putting a hit out on someone. It doesn't quite rise to that level. But the second thing is that is a reckless and dangerous thing to say in our time of political violence. That is incendiary, it is inflammatory, and it does rile people up and potentially encourage somebody to be a vigilante or take matters into their own hands. And so I think what Laura Loomer said is horrible. I think it's despicable. I think it's contemptible. But what I will say is Hasan literally is on his stream saying over and over again that he thinks a senator should be killed. Like he has watched footage of literal terror attacks on his stream and encouraged them. It's like it doesn't matter. Two wrongs don't make a right. So it's like what Laura Loomer did is still wrong, but it's like maybe Hasan could realize that incendiary and violent rhetoric and ratcheting stuff up and calling on people, like Hasan's clip where he's like, kill them, kill the landlords. Maybe we all should stop talking like that, whether it's a right-wing blowhard like Laura Loomer or a left-wing blowhard like Hasan Piker. So it's like he's not necessarily wrong to be bothered by that particular statement, but he can't then use it to delegitimize all this media coverage and criticism of him because, 99% of it is not, crossing that line, even if Laura Loomer's statement, I think, does. And then he should have some introspection because otherwise this just comes off as incredibly, insanely hypocritical for him to, of all people, suddenly be complaining about unhinged or violent political rhetoric. It's like if you Google that and say, like, give me an example from the left and the right, one of each, of a major figure who often uses violent rhetoric, like whatever chatbot you put that in, Grok, ChatGPT, whatever, is probably going to come up with Hasan Piker. for the left-wing example. So there's just something like very hypocritical about him without acknowledging and really recanting and repenting for what he's done with his own rhetoric, suddenly crying foul here.
Okay. That is crazy. And what's even crazier is the fact that Neera Tanden is literally quote retweeting this person. If you cared about Medicare fraud or Medicaid fraud, you would Rick Scott.
Yeah, kill them. Kill those motherfuckers. Murder those motherfuckers in the street. Let the streets soak in their red capitalist blood.
Didn't he go to war and like literally lose his eye because some mujahideen, a brave soldier, his eye hole with their? Isn't that how he lost his dumb eye? America deserved 9/11, dude. I'm saying it.
So Hasan is complaining about violent rhetoric that he says conservatives are saying about him, and he's lumping in just, a lot of media criticism. But then he just rolls on in the Fox News segment where they show a montage of him being insanely violent in his rhetoric, and he chuckles at it. It's like the lessons really are not being learned here at all, to the point of where it's diabolical to then just keep complaining about violent rhetoric. This man has audacity. You have to give Hasan Piker that. He has audacity. Gosh. We'll keep going.
So this is moving beyond the smear territory and moving into someone should do something about Hasan Piker territory, just fomenting so much hatred with the hopes that, someone who's watching Fox News tries to, take violent action against me directly or my family. The level of slander, smears as an America hater, as a terrorist, as the arch terrorist, Islamist.
Sorry. There's two things that we have to unpack here. One, he's saying that they're basically saying someone should do it about me. And it's like, okay, well, the only person that you've identified here that could even reasonably be suggested to maybe have done that somewhat is Laura Loomer. And I agree, she went too far and she should not do that. And nobody should do that. But most of the media coverage about Hasan is not at all hinting at someone needs to do it and get him. And again, Hasan has literally hinted at and done winks to the somebody should do it meme that's pervasive about progressives wanting someone to kill the president and or Elon Musk. So it's like, of all people, you're going to complain about that now when it's not even really happening all that much to you. I mean, there's examples, I'm sure, of people saying someone should harm Hasan, and I condemn that unequivocally. I don't want any harm to come to him, but I do want him to wake up and smell the coffee and be like, okay, crap, I've really been feeding this beast for a long time of this ugly, unhinged rhetoric. This is really bad. This is out of control. We all need to tone this down and roll it back. He's not doing that. He's just playing the victim over and over again. It's maddening. And then he's like, they're scapegoating me and slandering me as an America hater. Dude, you're literally on record saying that you have no love for America and you have no patriotism for America. So is a slander in the room for us? And then it's like, he's like, they call me a terrorism supporter. You literally have endorsed and encouraged designated terror groups on your stream. And you've sort of recanted, then now you troll about it. Your America deserved 9/11 comments. But it's like, still, it's like, okay, I'm sorry, but you can't have ever said America deserved 9/11 and then at any point in your life ever again, if people say, oh, he's, a terrorist supporter or sympathizer, be like, I'm being slandered. You're not. You're really not. Anyway, we'll roll the last bit of this here.
This jihadist that wants death and destruction for all Americans, that wants to murder Americans left and right. I think one of the worst aspects of this is how lonely it is here. I'll be honest. I have my community. I have this movement broadly, but everyone is obviously busy with their own thing. But it does suck that there are very few candidates, politicians. They love what we have to bring to the table. They love the fundraisers. They love the rallies. But it does kind of suck at times. And same with media. Media loves giving me coverage, but there's no pushback against this shit until it's going to be far too late to push back at all. And even then, I'm not so certain. I'll be honest. I feel like if someone assassinated me, I don't think the Democratic Party would. There'd probably be plenty of Democrats who'd be throwing a party. There wouldn't be a shit ton of prominent Democrats who would be like, this is unacceptable. How do we get here? Because we all know how it got here. It's happening right now. It's happening right now in broad daylight, and no one is saying a damn thing.
So there's a couple things to unpack about Hasan's rant there. Number one, I don't really think what he just said is true. That if he were killed, Democrats wouldn't be bothered by it or condemn it. I think almost everyone would condemn that. And frankly, the fact that even when Charlie Kirk was killed, most mainstream elected Democrats and even most mainstream media personalities unreservedly condemned it for the horrific attack of terror that it was. And it's like they hated Charlie Kirk a lot more than they dislike Hasan Piker. It's like he really does just victimize himself to the nth degree. And I think almost everyone would really be bothered by it. I think there'd probably be some right-wing blowhards who would cheer it in some way or not be at all sympathetic about it. And I would disagree with them because I think it's really never the answer, and I condemn it just unreservedly. But the other piece of this so I think he's just like, okay, boo-hoo, poor little Hasan, the multimillionaire. That's the other thing. He's like, it's so lonely. Oh, it must, I don't know. Do you want me to get my tiny violin out for you, Hasan? It's so lonely and you just have the hardest life with your multi-million-dollar mansion, your millions and millions of dollars, all your streamer friends in your LA bubble, constantly media outlets writing these glossy, glowing profiles of you. It's like, first off, he shouldn't have to. We should live in a world where this isn't necessary, but Hasan has every resource and all the money in the world that he needs to hire security to keep him and his family safe. And it's very unfortunate and shouldn't be the case that even has to be done. But like someone like Ben Shapiro has had to do that for, I don't know, more than 10 years. Candace Owens, all these people. It's like, unfortunately, this shouldn't be the case, but it comes with the territory that if you get big enough, you do have to do that kind of thing. You're also making so many millions of dollars that typically you can't afford to do so. But still, it's not okay. I don't think it's fine. I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying he does have the resources to deal with that. And then it's like the only extent to which he is lonely is because he has isolated so many people and so many normal, like he has just shat on Democrats and the establishment and the media for years. And yet still, like a lot of media outlets do these fawning profiles because they thirst for him. And some candidates on the further left do embrace him. But it's like, well, I don't really get what more he wants or what it is that he's so lonely about. Like, I don't view him as a victim at all. Obviously a couple things have gone too far about him, but like 90 to 95% of the backlash and the problems that Hasan Piker faces or has faced are because of Hasan Piker. And so I don't feel any sympathy for him at all. And I think he is incredibly diabolical, audacious, and hypocritical to be crying victim like this after everything he's said over the years. But what do you guys think? You'll have to let me know in the comments below. Make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet. Do hit the like button and consider becoming a channel member to support my work by hitting the join button or clicking the link in the description. With that, guys, we'll leave it there for this one and be back with more real soon.